On the morning of July 15th, 1966, the city of Chicago woke up to the shocking news that 8 student nurses had been brutally murdered in their dormitory the night before. As the Chicago police carried out one corpse after another, the question in everyone's mind was, who would do such a thing? Gradually, the gruesome details of this horrifying mass murder became clear. Apparently, a man armed with a gun and knife had entered this 2-story apartment in the evening. He forcefully corralled the 6 women he saw into one of the bedrooms and tied them up. He then waited for the rest of their roommates to arrive. When 3 more nurses returned to the apartment, the intruder tied them up and put them into the same room. Inside the apartment, the blood-stained wreckage revealed the sadistic manner in which the killer then disposed of these innocent women. The killer proceeded to take each woman, one at a time, and strangle or stab her to death in one of the other rooms. Rape was apparently not his only motive, as he had sex with only one of the women. His main purpose, it seemed, was simply cold-blooded murder. However, one of the women managed to escape by hiding under a bed. Amazingly, the killer had lost count of his captives, and when he finished murdering the 8th woman, he left the building. The woman in hiding later ran to the police, and despite being in shock, was able to give them a description.
About 6 feet tall, 25 years of age, a white man with a crew cut, wearing a black or dark shirt and a light jacket, might be discovered by some citizen, and the information relating to his activities reported to us.
2 days after the brutal slayings, the police arrested a man who fit the description to a T. His name was Richard Speck, a 24-year-old former merchant marine and current drifter. When Speck's fingerprints matched those at the scene of the crime, the police knew for sure they had their man, a cold-blooded killer who for some unknown reason decided one night to snuff out the lives of 8 student nurses.
I find it very difficult to believe that he planned he was going to go in and rape a large number of women, let alone kill each of them one at a time. He went in with a gun and knife. He tied them up. He perhaps went in order to burglarize an empty apartment or to break into an apartment and rob the people, or break in, rob, and rape some. But it's difficult to believe that he went in here with the idea prefixed in his mind that he was going to kill these people one at a time. A most peculiar and unusual way of doing these type of things. Killing sometimes is as big a charge. I think in his particular case, it became a bigger charge in the actual sexual acts themselves. He only does it once, and my feeling would be with the first girl. Thereafter, he found simply strangling them or stabbing them to death gave him a greater pleasure than having any type of sexual behavior with them. So therefore, 1 act of rape and 8 acts of killing. It was something he enjoyed. He continued to do it. He spent an entire evening doing it.
The victims of Richard Speck were all young nurses who were being trained to help save lives. Some were from Chicago, some were from abroad, some were engaged, but each of them had high hopes for a long and fruitful life. Then on the night of July 14th, 1966, those hopes came to an end when a stranger showed up at their home and savagely murdered each one of them for the sake of some demented personal pleasure. A parent of one of the victims could hardly fathom the cruelty that took place. For all the relatives, this would be a tragedy that would never go away. As Speck appeared in court, one couldn't help but wonder how this helpless-looking man could have massacred 8 women. Yet there had been signs of violence in his past. Just 1 year earlier, Speck had been arrested for threatening a woman with a knife. After serving a brief sentence, he now was facing the ultimate penalty. For his senseless slaughter, the jury sentenced Speck to die by the electric chair. As Speck awaited his fate, the Supreme Court ruled against the death penalty. The courts then changed Speck's sentence from death to 8 consecutive terms of life imprisonment.
The vast bulk of all people who are imprisoned for the crime of murder and given a life sentence or a large number of years tend to be released. Well, in the over 95% of all people, even if you get several hundred years, as he has, and one day or another, there will be a commutation of sentence. He will be eligible for parole. After turning him down 1 year after another, in time, he will be released. He will go free one day, be hoping that he has paid the price, that the number of years compensates for the crime. His case, 8 women versus so many years in prison. The chances are now, if I were to bet, I would bet that Speck will one day be released from prison after having served 15, 20, 30 years and go into normal life, whatever normal life is for him. Will he repeat the event? A question you've asked. I don't know, nor does anybody else. People think that they can tell you one way or another. They're lying to you or to themselves.
Would Richard Speck ever repeat the ruthless crime that took the lives of 8 women? One can only hope that we never give him that opportunity.